It's Monday, it's 6 o'clock. You're watching Sunrise. Our top story, a warning from the Prime Minister. If MPs block her deal, they are likely to block Brexit. Hello, good morning. You're watching Sunrise here on Sky News. I'm Sarah Jane Mee. Theresa May is today warning that MPs are likely to block Brexit if her withdrawal plan is voted down. At the start of one of the most important weeks in politics for decades, Mrs May will warn that catastrophic harm will be inflicted to trust in politicians if they fail to push through Brexit. The PM is hoping that the European Union will offer her a lifeline before tomorrow's vote, but most commentators expect her to lose that vote. Here's our political correspondent, Lewis Goodall. Well, one of the big remaining questions over Brexit is just what happens at the Irish border if the UK leaves the EU without a deal. Neither the British or Irish government say it is preparing for a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic, but could it happen? Here's our senior Ireland correspondent, David Blevins. So it is crunch week, the meaningful vote tomorrow. Neil is going to talk us through what's going to be happening. Hi, Neil. And let's talk to Tom Rayner about this, Sky's political correspondent. He is in Westminster this morning. Hi, Tom. The Prime Minister is delivering a speech later on today, and it's thought that she's going to warn if it's not her plan MPs will push through, there could be no Brexit at all, rather than a no-deal scenario.
That's right. Despite all of the
day, is no Brexit now more likely than a no deal? We've been asking you to send in your questions for Liam Fox. Here's one that's already been sent in. In the meantime, all eyes on Andy Murray ahead of being on the Prime Minister later on today. He's in action in Melbourne, in what could be his last tournament after that news over the weekend that he may be forced to retire.
Yeah, a story you'll not be surprised to hear that's pretty close.
Very cute.
The opposite of a hot dog.
Yeah, very good, very good. That set you up for your Monday morning. Are we talking about 50p coins?
Why not, shall we? This is fascinating. This is the Royal Mint. You may not know this, but the 50p has been around for 50 years. And so they have released this special commemorative collection of some of the finest 50p minute mile, sub 4 minute mile. And I've been having a look at it.
50p then?
No, it's very rare. I think there are only about 200,000 of them in circulation. So actually it's worth, technically, more than 50p. So totally...
I was going to say, is that on loan or can we spend that in the canteen?
I have absolutely no idea.
You've got no idea how
I
to
can't get into
that. Can you imagine handing that over in the canteen?
But they're beautiful, very nice, very lovely.
Nice. One for the collectors out there, celebrating 50 years of the 50p. We've got that on camera. I don't think that did escape my notice. Thanks very much, Neil. Now, let's talk about the big Brexit vote. It's dominating today's headlines in the programme. We've also got a full paper review coming up at 2:45. But Neil's had an early look through already and picked out a couple of stories that's caught his eye. And I saw this morning as well. Yeah. Army rations donated to fight food poverty. This is in the Mirror.
Yeah, it is. And I have to admit, I wonder whether how people will react to this. Essentially, thousands of unused rations that the military will have in...
To sort of the era of the war and it being poor food, small portions. But you've had some.
I've had some. They're really good. They keep our armed forces going. You know, I just wonder how people will react to, you know, people who are hungry being handed out rations. Be interesting to hear your views on that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting when we talk about so much waste and it could be redirected elsewhere. Maybe we need to look beyond our food snobbery. What else have you found?
This is a lovely story in the Star. A head teacher has essentially written to... A head teacher of a prep school in Kent has written...
The staff are thinking it's not worth the hassle.
Well, this is the thing. See, I'm twixt two houses. On the one hand, my parents, as has been mentioned in the show before, were both teachers. And I know just how annoying parents can be, particularly when they...
And also knowing you, I can't imagine you being particularly well...
However, if someone other than a family member disciplined my son, I would want to know everything about it, and I'd want to know exactly why and exactly where, so...
Oh, interesting. News at Sky.com for your thoughts, particularly if you're a parent. Whenever I was disciplined at school, my parents would go, you probably deserved it. They never really questioned it. But news at Sky.com, at Sky Sarah Jane, at Sky News Neil. Do you question teachers when they discipline your children? Right, we're going to have a look at the sport. We've been talking a lot about Andy Murray already this morning. His match due to get underway in what could be his last tournament at around 7 o'clock this morning, our time. Jackie, what else is coming up? This morning, we've got the International Trade Secretary, Liam Fox, coming on to talk about Brexit, that meaningful vote happening tomorrow. Keep your questions to him coming in, because We've run out of questions. We've asked them all. Not sure we're getting any answers, but it's your go.
Yeah, and people, everyone seems to be worried about what comes next. Everyone seems to be assuming that the vote will be lost. Carl, for example, in the event of the Prime Minister losing the vote, does Parliament have the power to stop Britain leaving the European Union without a deal? Becky, the million-dollar question, what happens when Parliament rejects the Prime Minister's plan? How will Parliament deliver on that referendum result? Not sure we'll get complete answers to all of those.
Yeah, we'll get your questions together and put some of them to the International Trade Secretary, as I said, at 20 past 8. Going to get a check on the weather now with Isabel. Morning. Hello, good morning. Welcome back to Sunrise here on Sky News. Still to come this morning. Your views this morning, news@sky.com, or you can tweet me at Sky Sarah J, particularly if you've got any questions for the International Trade Secretary, Liam Fox. He's on at 20 past 8 this morning because, of course, Brexit is our top story. That meaningful vote is tomorrow. And the Prime Minister is going to warn that MPs are likely to block Brexit if her withdrawal plan is voted down. At the start of one of the most important weeks in politics for decades, Mrs May will warn that catastrophic harm will be inflicted to trust in politicians if they fail to push through Brexit. The PM is hoping the EU will offer her a lifeline before tomorrow's vote, but most commentators expect her to lose. Here's our political correspondent, Lewis Goodall. You're watching Sunrise. Still to come, we'll be taking a look through Monday's newspapers. Joining us, Chloe Wesley from the Taxpayers Alliance and the journalist Andy Walton. They'll be talking us through Brexit coups and EU traps, and also be telling us the secret behind Ed Sheeran's hit songs. That's on the way in a couple of minutes. It's time to take a look through Monday's newspapers. Here with us, Chloe Wesley and Andy Walton. Good morning to you. Now, Brexit coups and EU traps. Where should we start? Should we start with a coup? That's on the front page of the Daily Mail, Chloe.
Yes. So a lot of papers yesterday and today focusing on that vote tomorrow. That very important vote on table is very important. And who is in control of the timetable and what is debated and what can be amended is quite important to the final deal. It's a precedent that was broken last week to give
here, isn't it?
Exactly, but anyone telling you they know exactly what's going to happen is lying. So I don't think Andy and I are going to try and do that today, but we have different opinions about what should happen.
None of them can agree on. That is the prospect. It was all over the Sunday papers as well. In the Times, their front page, Andy, Theresa May is making a speech later on today away from Westminster, and she's going to warn Brexiteers of
with this speech, but you know it's the last roll of the dice.
Isn't it a statement of the obvious though? What she's saying there is the meaningful vote tomorrow. The odds on the United
or no deal, and either gets pushed back or no deal, and those are two, unpalatable options.
Yeah, that's the front page of the Times. Inside the Times, Chloe, Brussels is bracing itself for a request to delay Brexit by 3 months. They'll be watching tomorrow night's vote with interest.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is quite like process. And I think a lot of voters, even on the Remain side, are wondering whether or not...
I am going to be out of the country on the day that we leave, the 29th.
The front page of the Mirror, this is interesting. Doctors are going to be asked their opinions on assisted dying.
Yes, so this is the Royal College of Physicians is going...
Who are on the front line with this. They will be seeing patients who are ill, and you can't even imagine until you're in that situation yourself what they're going through. So obviously there's the testimony of the families, but the doctors who are dealing with this as well, surely their opinions should be taken into account.
My heart goes out to...
Equally interesting question to ask would be how many patients die. I know of it.
Talk about Red Moon Rising, shall we, Chloe? This is in the Eye.
Yes, so the IR did have a story in the technology section on the rise of technology in China and also the state surveillance to extreme. And I saw a story about cameras using artificial intelligence to tell if primary school... Very terrifying. And this technology could be moving over to the West. And it might be a big conversation we have in the future.
Well, if that doesn't scare you too much, it's a double-page spread in the Eye if you want to read that. Read about that a bit more. It's in the technology section. I'm going to have a look at the sports back pages. Here's Jackie. Hi, Jax. Thanks very much. Yeah, can't imagine the game without them, can you? Right, let's have a look, shall we, at the Telegraph. Now, Andy, where do those coins, if you're a tourist in Rome and you throw them into the Trevi Fountain and make a wish, Where do they end up?
You're an old romantic, aren't you?
Oh,
Throwing your...
I've done it, of course I've
Of
done
course
it.
you have, yeah.
I've done it.
So the trick...
Throwing the coins in there, brilliant. That's shattered. I just want to bring you a bit of breaking news. We're hearing that the Prime Minister is going to be making a statement in the House of Commons at 3:30 this afternoon. Obviously, the debate ahead of the meaningful vote continuing today, but at 3:30 she's going to make a statement to the Commons ahead of that meaningful vote tomorrow. You can, of course, see it live here on Sky News. Let's talk about Ed Sheeran, shall we? This is in the Daily Star, Chloe, and how he writes his hit songs.
This is a very British story. Ed Sheeran has said that his smash hits are written while enjoying a cup of tea.
It does give you superhuman powers, and Neil testified to this in the kitchen in Millbank in our Westminster studios, right next to the Houses of Parliament. We've got a chart on the wall, haven't
Exactly.
we?
How to make
Really?
tea. There's obviously many rules on it, but the colour, very milky.
Yeah, that's the one. It's
you-
the perfect colour.
You putting the kettle on, then?
Yeah,
Is it
we'll
your
put the
turn?
kettle on. But our colleagues at Westminster are going to need that superhuman, cup of tea this week with the meaningful vote tomorrow and all that comes from it. Thank you both very much. We'll see you in the next hour for more stories from inside today's papers. Let's take a check on the weather now with Isabel. Good morning, it's 7 o'clock. This is Sunrise. Our top story today, a warning from Theresa May. If MPs block her deal, they're likely to block Brexit. Hello, you're watching Sunrise here on Sky News. I'm Sarah Jane Mee. All that to come, but first, Theresa May is warning that MPs are likely to block Brexit if her withdrawal plan is voted down tomorrow. At the start of one of the most important weeks in politics for decades, Mrs May will warn that catastrophic harm will be inflicted to trust in politicians if they fail to push through Brexit. She'll also make a statement to the Commons later on today about the Irish backstop. Here's our political correspondent, Lewis Goodall. Well, call it what you want, crucial week, crunch week, it all boils down to the same thing. Lots going on. Neil has the details. A busy day for the Prime Minister. News in a few moments ago that she's going to deliver a statement to the House of Commons at 3:30 this afternoon. Tom Rayner, our political correspondent, is in Westminster. And what's she likely to say in this statement, Tom?
That's right, Sarah.
This morning, here's one that was sent in a little earlier. We can have a look at that. You've been looking at these tweets, haven't you, Neil?
Yeah, let's see what Macaulay Mosley wanted to say, wanted to ask of Liam Fox. He says this, do you honestly believe that Theresa May's... People starting to think that that may well be part of the Prime Minister's strategy.
Yeah, interesting. We'll get the thoughts of Liam Fox, as I said, at 8:20. Keep your questions coming in. News@sky.com, at Sky Sarah Jane. We're talking about Andy Murray this morning. That news breaking over the weekend that he may be forced to retire later this year. We're looking at the Australian Open today because it could be his last tournament. And he's playing later this morning.
He is.
A video that was doing the rounds on social media a few months ago about how to get out of that situation if you find yourself falling through ice.
I remember seeing Bear Grylls stripping off entirely and jumping into an ice pond.
Oh no, I'm talking about if it happens by accident.
All right, OK, fair enough.
It's quite useful. I'll try and find it and retweet it because you just think you panic and obviously your body, it's so cold, it goes into shutdown. But it's actually quite easy to get yourself out of that situation if you know how. That dog clearly hadn't watched that video either.
Clearly not. No, get on it.
I'll find
pay
it and
attention.
retweet it. Right, thanks very much, Neil. Let's talk about air quality, shall we? The government is to tackle air pollution, including banning polluting log burners and the dirtiest types of fuel. The Environment Secretary, Michael Gove, says that air pollution is one of the biggest threats to public health. But this morning we're asking, do these proposals go far enough? They go beyond the EU requirements, but in terms of our health, could we be doing more? Joining us from our central London studios, British Heart Foundation, Simon Gillespie. Good morning to you, Simon. Now, the government has set out this ambitious long-term air quality target. As I said, it goes far beyond EU requirements. Is it enough? Could they be doing more? What's your view?
Well, there's lots of good ingredients.
Air pollution is one of the biggest threats to public health in the UK, behind only cancer, obesity and heart disease. Is it talked about enough?
No, I don't think it is.
And it's quite interesting. I'm looking at some of the headlines in the newspapers today. The newspapers have obviously gone through this report and pulled out the headlines that they think will appeal most to people watching or reading at home. And one of the things that's come under scrutiny is log burners and open fires that some people have in their homes, and diesel cars as well. Is it wrong to drive your diesel car home and switch on your log burner?
It's very easy to say.
Just looking at this, the Environment Bill, which is forthcoming, is going to include new primary legislation on air quality. It will take into account things like traffic pollution, which we hear a lot about, but also farming infrastructure that creates a lot of pollution. And the thought is that actually it is government's responsibility to do something about this. But as individuals, is there anything we can do to reduce air pollution that would make a significant impact?
Well, there are obvious things.
And those from poorer backgrounds. In short, clean air helps you live longer. Simon Gillespie, thank you very much for talking to us about the government's new measures on air pollution. Still ahead, the sport with Jackie. Hi, Jackie, what have you got for us? I'm going to take a look at the sport with Jackie. We're talking about the Manchester United-Tottenham game yesterday. I watched it, Jackie, and Tottenham were very unlucky, but I would say that. Jackie, thank you very much. Right, just talking about the pay-per-view, that's coming up at 1:45 this morning. We've picked out this story in the Mirror, which is very interesting. Army rations to be donated in the fight against food poverty. Really want to hear your views on this morning. Bit of food snobbery around, Neil, that actually rations, it's got so many bad connotations, but you've actually tried this stuff and it's not that bad.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've just done a quick check, and actually the menus change pretty regularly, so I might be a little Paris. They're pretty tasty. They're really quite nice.
And packed full of nutrients, I would imagine, given what,
Well,
what and where the soldiers eat them.
Packed full of nutrients, but also packed of food, in essence. But it's probably around between 4,000 and 5,000 calories, because you're giving it to soldiers who are out often on the front line, not sure when they're going to get another meal. And of course, they're called rations. And the idea of giving rations to people who are hungry, I wonder whether it sticks in the throat. But they are delicious, though.
Yeah.
I remember the Mexican chicken. It was really nice.
Oh, OK. And in the fight against waste as well, you know.
If it's spare, why not use it? But I can understand why the optics are not necessarily brilliant on this.
Sky.com for your views, at Sky Sarah Jane, at Sky News Neil. And you saw Isabel pop up there patiently listening to us. She is standing by with the weather because it's going to get colder towards the end of this week. But we're OK at the moment, Isabel, is that right? 7:32, you're watching Sunrise here on Sky News. Coming up on the programme this Monday morning. Plenty of you getting in touch this morning with your questions for Liam Fox. Keep them coming in, news at sky.com, or tweet us at Sky Sarah Jane at Sky News. Well, Brexit is our top story this morning. Downing Street announced a little earlier that Theresa May will make a statement to the Commons this afternoon. It's going to happen at around 3:30, we understand. Sky's political correspondent Tom Rayner has been following events this morning for us in Westminster. And Tom, she's giving a speech in Stoke-on-Trent earlier on today. Then she's going to head into the Commons. What's this statement about?
Well, if you remember...
Stay with us here on Sunrise.com. We'll take a look through today's papers. Joining us from the Taxpayers Alliance, Chloe Wesley, and the journalist Andy Walton. Plenty to get through on Brexit and also more on those rations, the army rations that could be used to help the food poverty in this country. Your thoughts, please. Use Sky.com. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. The things we discussed during the break. We are about to talk about food waste. Everyone's horrified that when I use a tea bag, I use it twice.
Ridiculous. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that is ridiculous.
Please, somebody stick up for me at Sky Sarah Jane. It's a waste otherwise.
No, it's not.
My producer's with me. There you go. That's what counts. We're talking about food waste in just a moment. Chloe Wesley and Andy Walton. We're going to get to Brexit, which is our lead story. Has been for days now. Will be for the coming days. And this is the front page of the Telegraph, Chloe. Remainers unite to call for second Brexit poll.
Yes, so not a lot has changed over the break. I don't think many MPs have changed them. How many times do people have to vote? And if this next referendum is a slim majority for Remain, are we going to have another?
There are two chains of thought on this, Andy, on the second referendum. There are those who have said, we've had a referendum. That is the result. We need to abide by that. There is the other school of thought that says, well, we've got more detail now. There are various different options we could have. Why can't we vote on that? Because the question in the first referendum wasn't detailed enough.
Well, the problem here is that...
1975 referendum, or do you think that was wrong to follow through with that result?
That was from... Gosh, we're going generation...
Yes.
The point was that the government made a decision then and then asked people if that was the right decision.
Argument goes on and on. It's not on the table, we are told. Who knows what will happen after the meaningful vote tomorrow. But while we're talking, the clock is ticking down, Andy, because front page of the Express reminds us that there is a time limit on this, but they are saying there is 24 hours to save Brexit.
It's quite rare that
It's either her plan or not a no deal, but no Brexit. That's now the option she'll put to the people.
It's a total change in policy because she's...
she's got a point. I mean, it might not be catastrophic.
Chloe, in the Mail, a double-page spread talking about other options. This is May's plan B, tweak the deal and try again. But there's a column there on the right, why other options would be disastrous. It's about, Andy, in the Times, a piece that says it's a myth that the left behind were ignored in this Brexit process.
It's quite extraordinary piece from Claire Foges this morning in the sand kind of stuff.
OK.
Well, after the vote, there was this opportunity for national renewal and for MPs to listen to these.
Army rations being used potentially in the fight against food poverty in this country. Chloe, this is in the Mirror.
Well, this sounds like
Earlier, it seems like a good idea, but the optics, the fact that people who are living in food poverty will be given rations isn't great.
Well, I mean, Will got in touch that one of the richest countries on earth is issuing ration packs to feed starving children. The problem is, though, actually, although, they're really quite tasty, they're full of calories, and if you need some food, these...
News at sky.com. Let's talk about homelessness. Let's stay with this. This is in Dublin, Andy, and Dublin's dark side, it's being called.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight this because obviously a lot of people watching this morning, British people, a housing crisis in Ireland. Obviously, Dublin's a very hot place to be because of some of their tax laws, businesses
So expensive.
Exactly.
Eye-wateringly.
And this is what we've seen in London and other British cities.
Well, that story is in The Guardian if you want to read more about the homelessness in Dublin. We're going to take a look at the sports pages now. Here's Jackie.
Very good reception.
We couldn't hear Jackie there, but what she was saying is that Andy Murray has just walked out on court at the Australian Open. It could be his final tournament before he is forced to retire because of injury. We'll keep across that here. We've got Martha Kellner out in Melbourne for us following his progress, but we'll keep across that here on Sky News this morning. But Andy Murray just walking out on court. Let's return to Chloe. Versace, a fashion story here. Versace offers a new version of masculinity.
What a segue, talking about people struggling and then, you know... Well, I think these fashion shows, they're pieces of art, aren't they? But they're not...
I'm absolutely fine. I'm just going, why is ads kind of dressing up for a few hundred years now, haven't we?
Well, I think that the metrosexual kind of...
Gay society allows everyone a greater freedom to express themselves with their clothes.
Of 2019 so far.
The vegan sausage roll.
The vegan sausage roll, of
We've
course.
managed to get away without mentioning it, haven't we?
Oh, sorry.
So thanks for that.
The internet, by the way, has spoken on your using a teabag twice thing. The worst thing I've ever heard.
Wow.
I think that's the verdict.
And we bring you a lot of bad news here on Sky News, so that's saying something. Thanks for that. I'll continue to use my tea bag twice to help cut down on food waste.
Don't double dip.
Don't double dip. OK, I won't double dip. Right. Andy, Chloe, thank you very much for your company this morning. Going to take a check on the weather now with Isabel. Does she use her tea bag twice?